Alberta Royal Canadian Mounted Police Force has been breaking up a few cells there at the border as these truckers are protesting. And what they've discovered, at least 11 people they've arrested after searching trailers that found weapons and a cache of ammunition. So let's get to some of the details of what they found. So they say that they had information that the group had access to a cache of firearms and ammunition. Officers seized long guns, handguns, multiple sets of body armor, a machete, a large quantity of ammunition, and high-capacity firearm magazines. This is needed for this protest, huh? We have since made another arrest involving this. The escalation of violence towards the members, including having someone break one of our checkpoints this afternoon and just about hit one of our members on the road, is what another member of the police force said. McHale also added that the different charges and different acts have created a situation where the Mounties are investigating conspiracy to attempt to commit murder. Man, these protests sound like they're really going well for the truckers. They're not upset at all. They're not violent at all, are they? Now, the premier up there in Alberta had some more details. Let's watch what he had to say.
It is very disturbing to see people involved in this protest ramming RCMP vehicles. It's not the first time. There was an incident at checkpoint 10 about 15 kilometers north of Coutts, where a protester rammed through a blockade, narrowly missed a police officer. But what is more disturbing here is the discovery of a cache of weapons and a large cache of ammunition, and the intelligence gathered by the RCMP about a core group who apparently had violent intent. This is extremely concerning. What we now know at Coutts, following an exhaustive investigation from the RCMP, is that there is, at least in that case, a small cell of people who wanted to take this in a very dangerous and dark direction.
So as we would generally know, we've seen how the Canadian trucker protest has been hijacked by many conservatives, especially pundits here in America. One of them is Sean Hannity. Now, what he also pointed out was some of this potential violence that could come once authorities decide to break this up, and how he probably used it as a bit of a threat or a warning against them. Let's watch.
Let the truckers make their own health decisions, leave them alone, and recognize that even fully vaccinated people with boosters can transmit COVID, or send in the troops and arrest the truckers. It's a peaceful protest. You know what's gonna happen. All hell will break loose. That will be the government starting a fight. People may die.
People may die at this peaceful protest once they decide to break it up as the authorities. So look out now, people might die. So you might not want to F with us. Remember that sentiment as we go into this next thing, because people were talking about how we've seen Nazi symbols, people, fascists up there. That's also getting denied at the same time on the same network that says, look out for these violent people that might kill you if you try and break up their peaceful protest. Let's watch more from Fox News.
And keep in mind, despite attempts by Trudeau and other leftists, they've been lying and vilifying these truckers and calling them racist and every other name they can think of.
So, Joe, we were saying that early on in these protests, there were some swastikas that were displayed. I've seen a picture of one fellow who was carrying a Confederate flag. That brush has been used to paint literally everybody who's involved in this protest. But what is the real story?
As far as these horrible hate flags, I mean, those were most likely props that were put in to try to quell this thing, and obviously that didn't work, and really nothing has worked.
So are you saying that some people were trying to actually have aspersions cast on the truckers by stirring things up with some of those symbols?
Well, I mean, obviously you don't know for sure, but I think it's kind of textbook to do something like that. The flags themselves, the ones that you referred to, were nowhere near all of this. They were in other parts of town. Nobody really saw them outside of social media, so I smell a rat on that. I don't see anything like that. There's no hate here that I've seen. There's no danger here that I've seen. There's no violence here that I've seen.
There's Joe Warmington giving us some very detailed facts about what's going on.
Yeah. He warmed those himself in his coat. That's why they call him Warmington. He just takes something that's not real and he warms it up until it becomes a fact, then it comes out of his mouth. And he's like, I don't know, smells like a rat to me. Anyway, back to you. I just got this job. Like, what is this? And I just, okay, it is funny, but it's also, once again, Fox News, when do we reel them in? When is anything being done for the amount of violence that they not only incite, but really they prepare their audience for? The way Sean Hannity says people will die, there's no solemnity in his voice. There's no sort of tragedy in his voice. It's like, well, people will die. And maybe, next word, maybe those people will be cops. Who knows? It's okay when we do it because we're white.
That's the thought process, right? Look out for us because our anger, our violence, our tendencies, our terror cells that they broke up just now, those are legitimate because it's us. When folks like them get arrested, it's how dare you? We just did it yesterday. Don't touch me. Give me my keys. How dare you? Bro, you broke the law. What are you talking about? You don't get to face the same kinds of consequences that everyone else does because it's you? Now, again, this is at the same time. Hannity says, look, these guys, violence might break out. How dare they call us fascists and Nazis? How dare they do it? It was just fascists and Nazis flags flying around. That's all there was. Oh, and this is the 4 things that Warmington said. Most likely, you don't know for sure, but it's textbook, all those kinds of factual phrases, and I smell a rat. And that's on accident after the anchor asked him, are you saying that people are trying to fake this whole thing and these are false flags? Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm just here to tell you that I think it probably is. That's how they fool their folks into thinking what's fake is reality.
Yeah. It's textbook, but I mean, we banned those. But like, if we still had them, like, I bet they would say, "Did someone planted a Nazi flag?" It is absolutely absurd, and also, yes, this is what I wanted to say was that, we talk about painting with a broad brush. Yes, sometimes there are just a few people who have Nazi flags. Cool, you get a cookie that not everyone had a Nazi flag. But here's the other thing that they're painting with a broad brush. Canadian truckers. This is a 0.0367% of all Canadian truckers are taking part in this protest. So you don't want to talk about painting with a broad brush. You are just shorthanding Canadian truckers every time you utter that. Instead, it is a minority who is clearly fixated on honestly, like, a mandate that like the large majority of Canadians have already complied with. Absolutely. Because they want to live.
Half of their anger is that other protests were taken seriously by majority of people, and that they want theirs. It has nothing to do with what they're protesting. That's why they're so angry.